Hi, Tom Shue here, and today I want to give you guys kind of a sneak peek of some personal work that I'm doing, and it is a compositing project. What does compositing mean? Compositing means we're going to combine multiple elements to create a finished image. For example, we're going to shoot our backgrounds separately from our model, and we're going to make them blend. Now, that can be kind of tricky if you don't know how to set up your lights on your model. Okay? The trick is getting the direction of light to match the background and your subject. And since you're shooting them separate, how do you do it? Well, Joel Grimes, he's a master at this compositing technique, and he's taught the world how to do it, and I'm one of those guys he taught. What you need to do is you need to set your lights up in a situation that you have a direction of light on your model that's going to match the direction of light on the background, but it doesn't have to match completely. You just have to have one direction of light on your model that matches the direction of light on the background. And considering we have an edge light on this side of the face, an edge light on this side of the face, and we have a main light coming in on one side of the face, and we have a fill light coming directly from the front. We have light coming from 4 different directions, so our subject will match any background we place her on. Thank you, Joel Grimes. So let's just get started. Before you bring your model on the set, you want to have your lights dialed in and almost to the point where they need to be fine-tuned. They're roughed in, the exposure is perfect, your white balance is perfect, and everything's firing on all cylinders, so you look professional to your model. Your model will be excited to work with you, and anyone that else is at the shoot, art directors, creative directors, makeup artists, they realize that you really know what you're doing and you're a professional, and they want to work with you. Versus somebody that's trying to fumble through and get it set up with everyone watching. It's really hard to do. So let's just get started. Here's the light setup. It's basically 2 soft boxes with grids in the back. The reason why they have grids is to keep it from flaring the lens. I'll show you in just a second how they do that. Our main light is a 46-inch Photex soft lighter, and our fill light is an 8-foot Octa. So this is how it's set up. We put our talent in the middle, and we use these gridded soft boxes in the back at an angle to create this rim light. But since we have the grids in it, the light can't go in any direction except forward. So the beams of light crisscross, and they never actually get into the front of the lens, so they don't flare it and you don't lose contrast. Our main light is off the camera right in this situation. Now, what would determine the side that your main light is on, the left or the right or the top, would be determined about the bangs of your subject, basically the hairstyle. If they had a bang on the right hand side of, actually their left hand side of their head, and you put the light on that same side, it's going to cast a shadow on the side of their face. So you'd want to move the light to the opposite side of the bang. That's it. Your fill light will always be in axis with the lens, which means that it's right behind you when you're shooting. As long as your fill light is behind you when you're shooting, you'll control the shadows that the camera sees. Okay? So how do you get started? You first make sure everything's firing. You make sure the pocket wizards are working. You just take a shot and say, hey, my lights are working, my packs are working, we're good to go. Then you can bring your assistant out and you can set up your white balance. You shoot a target, do a custom white balance in your camera so all the images that everyone gets to see throughout the shoot look good and the color's good, and you can use this in post for post-production. So you bring in your assistant and you have them stand up there and you have them rough in and take a shot. Now you got to start somewhere, and if you look at this case, we do have an edge light coming from both sides, so I eyeballed the lights pretty good, but he's a little bit too far back. The light is wrapping a little too far on his face, and you can see we're getting a catch light in the eye, and we're getting a specular highlight on the nose. So we know when we're going to fine-tune these lights with the model, we'll take care of that. We'll be looking for that. So we turn on our main light, and you can see that based on the main light's height, we're getting a shadow on the side of the face. This shadow on the side of the face like this is called a loop light or loop shadow. If you wanted the Rembrandt, you just raise that light up higher until this tip of the nose creating this loop shadow is down now on the side of the face. Let's zoom back out. Let's go to the next image. This image is with the fill light. Let's move back one time. Let's look at this catch light. You can see this catch light's at 2 o'clock. Okay, that's kind of where you want it to be, 2 or 10 o'clock. And we just have one catch light because we just have one main light. This catch light back here will be dealt with when we set up for with our model, but with our test subject here, our assistant, we had him a little too far forward. Now we look at the catch lights. You can see that there's our fill light, which is that 8-foot octa, and I happen to be standing right in the middle of it. Okay, and that controls the contrast. If we toggle back and forth between these two images, the only difference is the amount of light that is going past him to the background, which is okay, but it's filling in the shadow side of the face. You can see here that I wanted the exposure to be a little bit brighter. Okay, so I went from F11 to F9. I opened up just a little bit, and there is with the fill light. It's controlling the contrast on the face. Next thing you want to do is turn off your Pocket Wizard. Now I happen to be triggering my lights with the Pocket Wizard. I turn off the Pocket Wizard because I want to see how much light is being contributed to my scene from the ambient lighting. For example, there's overhead lights that happen. We're doing video when we shoot, so we needed some lights, and they happen to be fluorescent. Now, instead of having to gel the fluorescent to match with my studio strobes, what I did was I shot a shutter speed and an aperture combination that was fast enough to kill that light, so I don't have to deal with that color mismatch. Okay. The next thing you want to do is you want to zoom into the area that your subject is going to be. Okay. Have them step out of the way, put your camera in manual focus, and fire all of your strobes. Then you want to analyze that frame to make sure that it doesn't have any extremely dark or extremely light spots. You want it to be roughly even because remember, you're going to have to extract your subject off this to place her on that composite plate. Next thing you want to do is bring in your assistant for your final test shot to make sure that your whole system is dialed in and it's working and you're happy. Obviously, you can see that we got a situation here with his nose, that highlight's still on his nose, and we got that catch light still in the eye. So we need to go ahead and move our model forward. Now she's a little bit taller, so we're going to have to fine-tune the lights. But there's our final shot. You can see that we have our catch light here at 2 o'clock from the main light. We've got our fill light doing all the work for the shadow areas. There's no extra shadows except that one loop light here on the side of her face. Our edge lights look perfect. And if we look in the histogram, right over here, let's go into the develop module real quick. You can see that I have no blown out or highlight spots. There's been nothing applied to this image, so we've got full control over our highlights and our shadows. If we pull down the highlights and we pull down the whites, you can see that the skin detail is all there because there's nothing blown out. We've controlled it. And the reason why you want to make sure that is done is when you bring these images together, that you're going to kind of have to tweak these highlights so that it sells the fake with the background plate. So that's it. I want to thank you all for taking time to spend with me today and learn a little bit about compositing and lighting in multiple lights and how to set them up. So until next time, we'll see you soon.